Hi folks, Jason here and welcome back to another video tutorial. Today we're diving deep into the definitive pipeline for rigging any hard surface or mechanical model in Blender. We begin by constructing a custom armature using bones, meticulously aligning the skeletal structure to the geometry. Next we will apply inverse kinematics to the limbs, creating intuitive controllers for the hands and feet to simplify animation. Since automatic weights fail on these kind of meshes, we will parent the armature to the model using empty groups, which creates a clean slate for precise control. The entire process culminates in manual weight painting, where we will ensure that every plate and segment of the robot is perfectly bonded to a single bone with 100% weight, giving us a fully rigged, mechanically accurate character ready for any animation project. Let's get to it. Okay, so before we get into doing the armature, I'm just going to select the model. I'm going to press Control and A and basically apply all transforms. That just make sure there's no scaling issues as we go along. And the next one I'm going to do is going to start adding some bones. So Shift and A, armature. And this is going to be our root bone. This is going to be the bone that controls everything. Might just sort of scale that down a little bit. Don't need it to be as large as that. Say something like that. So I'm just going to put it underneath the character. I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to press E and Z and just bring the bone out. Now with this bone, I'm going to press Alt and P and disconnect that bone. And then bring that up to, say, where the pelvis is. Now I can't see anything at the moment, so we need to go to Object, Properties, and you need to scroll down to where it says Viewport Display, which is there, and select in front. So now we can actually see the bone in front of the model. And from here, I'm basically going to have to kind of work out like, okay, so we've got, if I just move sideways for a minute and just use my little pen here. So we've got essentially like a pelvis area here. And then we've kind of got this like, this sort of torso area. And I would say we'll have something like this. So we'll have like, like the head, got a neck there. You can see that. Then we've kind of got this kind of chest area. And then we've kind of got the like lower abdomen. And then this kind of pelvis area here. So it depends, how far you want to kind of go. You could just have one bone that goes all the way through. Or what we could do is have this, obviously this is going to be a pelvis area here. We could maybe have that going all the way up to, say, to the chest area. We'd go E and Z again up to the top of the chest. E and Z again, this will be the neck. And then E and Z again, and this will be the head. And of course, we can make some adjustments along the way. So it's going to take away that pen now and just continue creating our bones. So let me just go and zoom in a second. So head-wise, I think that's probably looking a bit more likely for the head. Oops, let's try that again. Something like that. This is going to be our neck area here. And of course, we can have a look on the side view as well. So is it looking okay? I'd say that's pretty much it. And the rest of it's kind of looking all right. All right, now let's go and create some arms. So I'm going to go E from there. Now, same thing again. I'm going to press Alt and P and go disconnect bone. And then I'm going to go and rotate. And then G, I'm going to move that over to here to say something like that. And then I'm going to move this down to, say, the middle, to the bend in the arm. I'm going to go E again, all the way down to the wrist. And then E again, and this will be for the hand. Now we can go and have a look at the side view on this. Now, from the looks of it, we need to kind of put a bend in it. So whenever you're doing like arms, you need to kind of put a bend in it. Otherwise, the inverse kinematics doesn't work properly. And we'll go and move that part of the wrist over as well. Oops, not the hip, the wrist. There we go, say something like that. And I think that's kind of generally looking all right. Now let's go and create some fingers. So what I'll do is I'll go and perhaps just move this down. And I'm going to go E and then E again. And then from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these and I'll move that. I'll tell you what I will do. I'll disconnect it. Alt P, disconnect that bone or both bones. Yeah, so they're both done. And I'm just going to move that across to there. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go Shift D. And then I'll duplicate this one again. Shift D. And then Shift D again. And then basically position them. So go and sort of position these knuckles. Again, you can sort of move them in unison. Say something like that. And then with the middle knuckles, you can see there, we can maybe just move those around accordingly. So let's just have a look at this first finger and I'll just select them both. Let's try that again. Select them both to there, move that to there, and then sort of position that to say something like that. And then we've got this other finger again. I'm just going to sort of centralize it and just make sure that that's somewhere in the middle. And that should do for that. Same thing with this finger. And same with this one as well. All right, and you can move these down if you wish, just so it's looking a bit neater. Okay, and then of course we need to check in the front view just to make sure that they are aligned with the fingers. So I'm going to move those over to the middle there. And then all we need to do is just really sort of move around. Now, I could probably do putting a bit of a bend in there with all of them. So we can do there, I can go into the X-ray mode and then just do something like that, which will hopefully just select all of them and then put a bend in them like that. Excellent. Okay. And of course, we're going to have to name all of these bones, but we'll circle back around to that. All right, so let's continue. We've done that side there. Let's now create the legs. So I'm going to extrude from here. Now we shouldn't need to disconnect this bone. I'm just going to go and rotate G and R. Say something like that. And I'm going to move that down to say that knee area. Now, this is a bit of a different type of leg. If I can have a look now, it's not like a typical human leg. We've got the kind of, it comes forward like so. It's like a dog's hind leg. So we go E and then E again, like so. And then I'm going to go E for the main foot area and then E again for the toe area there. So we've got something that looks like that. All right. And then just check it from the front. So that's generally looking all right. I think we're all pretty much set there. We've got the main torso, we've got the neck and the head, we've got the arms. Now we just need to kind of go through and name all these because obviously we're going to symmetrize them. So I'm going to start with the head. I'm going to press F2. We'll call this head. And then we've got the neck. So I'll go and select that. F2. Call that neck. And we'll call this chest. F2. Call that chest. And we could say, we'll just kind of refer to this maybe just like the hips. It's kind of like the sort of the main lower part of the torso going into the hips. So we'll just call this hips, right? Okay. And then for here, this is where it changes. So we need to put the .L on all this. So I'm going to press F2. I'll call this upper arm .L. This will be forearm .L. Then we've got the hand. So again, F2, call this hand .L. It's got to be a capital L or else it won't work. I've just realized I've not put a thumb in there. So I'll just copy that finger there. And what I'll do is I'll just rotate to say something like that. Okay. And then we'll go F2. We'll call this thumb. We'll call it thumb 1.L. And then we'll call this thumb 2.L. And we'll go, so this is the index. So we'll call this index. F2, index, F.L. And then we'll go F2, call that index, F2.L. You can call it what you like at the end of the day, as long as it's got .L and as long as you know what you're doing. And we'll call this, that'll be the middle finger, I guess. So we'll go middle F.L. And then this will be middle F2.L. Oops, make sure that's on capital. There. Okay, we'll call this ring finger. Ring F.L. And then we'll go F2 and we'll call this ring F2.L. And then we'll call this little finger, so that will be little F.L. Make sure that's a comma. Let's do that again. Little F.L. And then we'll call this little F2.L. I'm going to check over these anyway, just make sure they're all looking okay. So those are the little fingers. Then we just need to, and the rest of the fingers, we just need to do leg now. So we'll go F2. I'll call this thigh.L. So if it was a dog leg, that would be the stifle, which is basically forming part of the knee. So go call this .L. And then we've got here, which would be, I guess, the shin or the hock going into the ankle. So we'll call this hock ankle .L. And then we've got the main foot here. Foot, .L. And then we've got the toe. Okay. So what we need to do next is we need to just run a check now and just go through the bones, just make sure that there aren't any mistakes. Or before I do that, I'm just going to go and name this as well. We'll call this root. Okay, so double checking. Toe, that's looking all right. Foot is looking okay. Yeah, I'm just checking to see I've not put any commas in there or anything like that. That's looking fine. Let's go and have a look at these fingers. That's fine. Because when it comes to doing the symmetry, there we go, you see, well, there's an error there. Let's put that little dot in there. When it comes to doing symmetry, if it doesn't have the dot, capital L, it won't work. So we just need to make sure that it all has dot L. Okay, that's all good. And I did check those, didn't I? I checked the thumb, yeah. Okay, forearms looking good. And we got the upper arm, that's fine. Okay, so I think we're in good shape. We're ready to go to the next stage, which is to symmetrize the bones. So what we're going to do here is we're going to select all of the bones on the, the characters left, our right. Just going to go and select all of those and then hold down Shift and just go and select all of those bones there as well. We don't need anything from the middle. It's just from the side here. Okay, and then all we need to do is go through to armature, and we need to go through to where it says symmetrize, and then click on that. And all being well, if I go around to the other side now, all the 5 fingers, well, 4 fingers and 1 thumb are there. And then we've got the legs. So that's all looking grand. But before we start binding the mesh to the armature, I want to put in some controllers and also some inverse kinematics. So what I'm going to do is we'll start with the arms. I'm going to basically click on the ball joint there on the wrist, click on the other ball joint there for the other wrist, and then I'm going to press E and Y. And then with these bones, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select them both, press Alt and P and clear parent. And then from there, we're just going to, leave those as is. And we'll need to create some poles as well for those arms. So I'm going to go and click on the elbows of the character. Again, E and Y again. Clear parent again. So Alt and P, clear parent. This time though, I'm going to move these away from the body. I'm going to move down to the legs now. So at the bottom of the legs near the ankle, I'm going to go and select that ball joint. And I'm going to go E and Y and select them both, Alt P, clear parent. And then we're going to create some poles for the knees. So I'm going to go and select that joint there, and then go E and Y, select them both, Alt and P, clear parent, and move those away from the body. So they're basically going to help to sort of steer the legs so they don't kind of drift off either way. All right, so we've got that set up, and next we're going to apply some inverse kinematics. So here, what we're going to do is going to go into pose mode, and let's start on the with the right leg, and have that selected. You'll see now there's a little kind of bone with this kind of like shape going through it, which is the bone constraint. Let's move this out a little bit. So I'm going to add a bone constraint. In this instance, it's going to be inverse kinematics. I'm going to go and click on that. And we need the target. So that's going to be our armature, or armature 001 in this instance. And then it's the bone itself. We can use the eyedropper, and we're going to select the little controller there, like so. For the chain length, we've got essentially 1, 2, 3 for the legs. So we'll make 3 in the chain length, like that. That will go all the way up to the hip. So now if I move that, if I go and select that controller and hit G, you see that's moving beautifully now. Okay. I'm going to go back to that bone there, though. I'm going to need to set it to this controller. Now, I haven't actually named these controls. You can do if you want. It's probably not necessary. The only bit it was necessary for was to do the symmetry, but you can if you want. You can just name these bones as you like. But anyway, I'm going to leave that for you to decide on. I'm going to go back to that bone. So again, the pole target is going to be armature 001, and I'm going to go to the bone, which is going to be this one here, like so. Now you'll see it kind of turns a funny way. It's not a problem. All you need to do is click on where it says pole angle, type in 90, and it'll point it forward again, like so. Just need to do the same now with the other leg. So I'm going to go and select the other bone, add the constraint again, inverse kinematics, same thing as before, and select the little controller like so. Set the chain length to 3, and then we'll also set the pole target for this bone here. So again, let's choose the armature and select that pole target there, and then set the pole angle to 90. So now when we move the leg, you'll see if I go and hit G, it's kind of it'll move straight as opposed to kind of bending around all over the place. You can also now control that knee if you select that little pole bone there. You can actually move it from side to side as well. So it's quite useful just for that extra level of control. So those are the legs done. Let's just go and I'm going to hit A and Alt G Alt R. So bring those back into position. Now, to the arm. So I'm going to go into the forearm, same as before. I'm going to go to inverse kinematics, select that armature. The only reason, by the way, let me just click off that. I've just got another armature in the scene, that's all. That's why it's armature 001. You'll probably just see armature, right? But for mine, it's just 001, so that's fine. Just so there's no confusion. And I'm going to go and select that bone there, like so. Chain length is going to be, is going to be 2. So it goes all the way up to the top of the arm there. And then we're going to set the pole target as well. So again, that's just going to be my armature, and the bone is going to be that there. You'll see it does another funny twist. Now we'll just check this now. So whether it's going to be, it might be 90. Let's just check on 90, see if it's 90. No, it's not. It'll be minus 90. So I'll go minus 90, and that takes it back to there. So that's fine. And then we're going to do the same with the other arm as well. Add another inverse kinematics. We're going to set that to the armature, that to that bone, and also for the pole target, do the chain length, which is going to be 2. And then we'll set the pole target for that bone there, and then we'll make that minus 90. So that's bending the right way. So now if I click onto that and hit G, that's bending really nice. And if I go and select that pole target and move that from side to side, you see there you can kind of move the arm. Grand. Okay, so there we are. So again, just as a belts and braces, I'm going to select A, Alt G, Alt R. Now, if I want to keep this as the resting pose, which I do, I'm going to go up to where it says pose, go to apply, and apply pose as rest pose. It just means it sets it then. There's no guesswork. So whenever you kind of do that Alt G, Alt R, it'll always go back to that position. Now, before we get into binding the mesh with the armature, we need to make a few more adjustments just to make sure that the procedure goes well. Firstly, what we need to do is we need to go back into object mode. You need to make the pivot point here basically align with the center, which is essentially where the 3D cursor is. In order to do that, I'm going to go through to Object, Set Origin, and Origin to 3D Cursor, and then do the same with the armature as well. Object, Set Origin to 3D Cursor, like so. And then finally, we go back to Object, go all the way down to Parent, and then what we want is Clear and Keep Transformation. Click on that and then do the same with the mesh as well. So with any luck, if we now click on the mesh and the armature, Control P, and then armature deform with empty groups, should see it binds to it, and that's all looking good. That completes this stage of the video. In the next part, we're going to be looking at weight painting. So now we're at the point of weight painting with our model, and this will become quite involved. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the basic principles, and then I'm going to probably speed the next part of the video up to save a bit of time and just show you the process. But basically, it's fairly kind of repetitive, but follows the same kind of principles. Now, perhaps we'll start off with the head. That's probably like a good place to start. So in order to do that, what we'll do is start off by selecting the armature, shift and selecting the mesh. And then you can either go to the top left here and select weight painting that way, or Control and Tab and go to it that way. And then we're presented with something that looks like this. And you can basically hold down Alt and select all the bones that are going to be related to the different parts of the mesh. So as I mentioned before, we're going to be starting with the head. So what essentially we're going to do is we're going to need to isolate this head, hide the rest of the body so we can actually paint this clearly. Now, this character doesn't have any real moving features. It's just a sort of static head, but obviously we want it to kind of be able to move and rotate. So in order to do that, we need to kind of at least just kind of move the body just so it's not going to interfere with the weight painting. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is I'm going to press Control and Tab, or you can go to the top left, go through to Edit, and then from here, what we're going to do is I'm going to hit L and basically work my way around, clicking L all the way around that main part of the torso, like so. And maybe even this part around the neck. Let's hit L there as well. And then press H. So that basically loses it. Now, there's also the neck area as well. So I'm going to hit L with that and H to hide that, because all we need really is the head. Okay. So once I've done that, we'll go back through to the weight painting. Hit F just to enlarge the brush. Make sure that the strength is fully up. And then essentially all we're doing is we're just coloring in. So we're just coloring this in. So we want this to be completely red. So anything where you've got an object where you want it to be absolutely controlled by the bone, it needs to be fully red. Now, when it comes to things like the fingers, which we'll be coming on to later, there's a little bit of kind of a little bit of discretion there, because obviously there's parts of it we need to be able to manipulate, and other parts we don't need to be totally controlled. But anyway, we'll come around to that. So that's pretty much the head. So it's fairly simple to kind of do. You just kind of pick your, you pick your bit of geometry and do that. You can even test these things out. So if I say, for example, if I go back now to say the edit mode and this press Alt and H and to bring everything back, then go back to the weight painting, say, for example, with that head selected, by rights, I should be able to now, if I go, or to just to be on the safe side, I'll just use the rotate tool. So with the rotate tool, I should by rights be able to move this. Essentially, that is working. So we've got that head moving now, that bone controlling that that head. We can move it side to side as well, which is great. All right, and then basically we're going to be applying the same principle to the rest of the body. So for example, the neck, we'll come back to that now. So in order to do that, we're going to need to isolate. So we're going to need to go back through to edit mode. And this time round, I'm going to hit L for the head. And just work my way around all of these antenna and things like that. I think that's most of it. And hit H. I think has that taken the neck? I'm not entirely sure. I think that's fine. And then L for this part, and H. So I've got just a little neck there. And then I'm going to go L and just go for all these other parts here. That's probably going to be enough, to be honest. I'm going to press H. So that just kind of leaves that bit of the neck. Then go back through to weight painting. And obviously we need to kind of zoom in a little bit. Alt and click on that bone. Go and select our brush, and then effectively just color it in. So it's like that. It's a lot of it is just kind of picking where you want to, which bone that you want to influence on your mesh, and you just simply color it in. We'll go back to edit mode, and then we can bring our press Alt and H, bring that back, and we can click off and then go back to the weight painting. And then obviously with that selected, again, I'll probably use this for the time being. We've got there we go. We've now got our neck. Okay. So we've got two things going on. We've got our neck, and also we've got our head as well. So you can have things like the head kind of rotating like so, and then you can have, if I go and click on the neck there, and then you can have the kind of, that kind of thing going on. Okay. So that's the head and the neck. Now this part, we'll probably isolate this part of the torso to say this part of the body, and then maybe this lower bone, like the hip, to this kind of abdomen area. So just like before, I'm going to go through to edit, and again, I'm going to just isolate all these parts of the head, and then obviously I'm going to do the arms as well around there, and also the lower part of the torso, maybe even the belt area, and then press H to hide. That's all looking all right. And then go through to weight painting with that bone selected, selecting Alt, and then basically just painting this in. Okay, so now we're going back to Alt H, bring everything back there. And now we're going to try and work a little bit smarter. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, for the torso, what we can do is go L. In fact, I'll get this bit as well. Maybe both of these. So we've got L, and what we've done is we've just done this kind of torso hip area. Now what we can do, instead of like trying to hide all of that, we can go Control and I, and it inverts it. And then all we need to do is just go H, and it just saves a lot of time. So from there, go back into the weight painting mode. We can go now and select that bone, and then just color it in. Okay, and then back to Edit, and then Alt-H. So far we've covered the following. We've done the head, we've got the main, we've got the head, we've got the neck, if we can just go and isolate that there. Then we've got the main sort of upper body, the torso there. Then we've kind of got the abdomen sort of area there. Now, when it comes to the arms and the legs, we can actually work a bit smarter. So instead of having to sort of do both, one after the other, we can actually mirror all of the stuff over. So you should be on obviously on the mirror axes anyway. Symmetry is the word I was looking for. And what we can do here is, if I go back, and you'll see this hopefully in real time, if I go back to edit mode, and let's say we'll isolate, let's click off, we'll isolate this part of the arm. So this bit is going to be rotating. And we press Control and I to invert it, and then H. And then we go back to, say, back to weight painting, Alt and select this. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to paint a little bit, like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back now to the edit mode. And let's just temporarily just bring everything back. Okay. And then go back to the weight painting. I'll click on the other arm. And you can see now it's actually mirrored. So whatever we do on the one side will affect the other. So that's a great time-saving little device there. There are other ways that you can play around with mirroring. You can go to weights and you can mirror weights and things like that. But this works just as well. So that's just to kind of show you that. Now I'm just going to go back now to edit mode. We're going to just isolate these parts, press Control and I, and then H. Back to weight painting. And now I'm just going to go and select that bone and then fill it in. All right. So that's that done. Back to the edit mode, Alt-H. And then we'll deal with the lower arm here. So I'm going to click off, go to there, Control I, and then H. Then back to weight painting. Click on the bone, Alt, and click. And then we go back to the edit, Alt-H. Now, when it comes to the fingers, we're going to come to this now. In fact, before we get to that, I'm just going to just go back a step to there's a little ball joint there. I want to kind of bring that in as well. So I think what I'll do is I'll go Alt and H. And what I'll do is I'll just go and select that and also select that ball joint. Then press Control and I and then H, because I want to include that in the arm as well. So I'm just going to go back to weight painting and we'll just make sure that we got that colored, because this part isn't going to be moving, independently. Right, back to edit. Now, Alt-H. So with the hand, we're going to tackle this by, first of all, I'm going to have, obviously these bones are parented to this bone. So what I'm going to do is, this is going to be solid. So I'll go L, Control I, and then H. So this is going to be solid. However, when it comes to doing the fingers, we are going to do them solid, but we're going to need to be a little bit more delicate with it because we need the fingers to bend. Everything that I'm coloring in red is not going to bend, whereas the fingers do need some dexterity. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to paint that in, go back to edit mode, Alt H, and then click off. And now what we're going to do is, probably the best thing to do is just one digit at a time. So I'm going to start with the thumb, Control I, and then H. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to start painting in, but I don't want to make it a solid red. I want to allow a little bit of a phase when it comes to the middle part because we need movement there. That's with, sorry, I'm not sure if you've even selected the bone. Sorry, let's go back again. So let's go to weight painting. I'll go Alt and select that bone there, and then I'll start to paint into that. But I want it kind of phased. So I'm just going to phase that in like so. And then I'm going to press Alt and then click on the lower bone and paint that in like so. And then there are other things you can do. For example, here you can do things like smear. So you can actually just soften the edges and stuff like that around. If you don't, if you want to kind of, it's a bit like smearing paint. If you want to kind of be a little bit more, want it to be a little bit more kind of delicate or a bit more subtle in areas, you can do that. We can also drag it just like paint. You can sort of drag this weight painting. So basically just increase its influence or indeed take it away. So that's the other thing as well. You can sort of use the control key and, just go back and forth. Anyway, let's have a look and see what this looks like. So we know we can move it. I mean, we could indeed put another joint in there, but I don't think it's necessary for this demonstration. But of course, like with all these things, you can put more and more joints in them. You can have as many joints as you like. So I'm going to hit R, and that seems to be moving absolutely how we want it to. Yep. And then all we need to do is just work our way around the rest of the fingers. Okay, so with any luck, that's worked. We can go and check this out and see if it actually did, just go through the bones. So I'm just going to go and go back through to the weight painting again. And how we can check is by doing what we did before. So we've already checked the head. Now let's go and have a look at the arms. So holding down Alt, that's looking good. That's looking good. We've got the hand as well. Now the hand, I've just seen here, probably shouldn't be controlled by that. So I'm going to go and take that away because the hand is independent. So I'll see if I can just kind of take that away. Of course, what you can do is just do what we've done before, which is going through and just isolating it a little bit more. But I think we might be all right. Just doing it like this for the time being, hopefully. Okay. So it all helps, just sort of checking it all over and just making sure that it's all in line with what you've been doing. So then if I go to Alt, I can see there that I can see now that that needs filling in. So what I'm going to do here is I'm probably going to go back through to the edit mode, and it'll just be quicker to do it this way. Control and I, H, we'll just isolate that, go back to weight painting, and then we'll just fill it in. Something like that. Okay. We'll go back through to our weight painting, sorry, back through to our edit mode, bring all the rest of the geometry back, and then go back to weight painting. And then we can continue working our way around. So we know that we've sorted the hand now. So if I hold down Alt, you can see there now that's actually just been influenced by that bone. And if we come through to the fingers, they're all looking good. Excellent. If I just click on them now, they're all being influenced by their respective bones. It'll be the same on the other side as well. Let's just check down on this other side of the leg. That's all looking good. That's looking good. Let's have a look at here. Nothing missing. Oh, I can see there's a little bit of a patch there. So let's just go and color that in like so. And maybe just even that up a little bit for that toe area. Okay. Something like that. All right. And we know it's going to be the same on the other side. We'll just double check anyway. That's all good, good, good. Same on the hand. Same with the fingers. It's good just to double check. We've got that thigh area there. And also with that foot. And that's copied over nicely. And then we've got the toes. That's all good. So excellent. So that sort of that finishes that phase of the weight painting. There's a couple of other technical things to do, a bit of housekeeping. One is we need to, if I go back now to the object mode, with the bones themselves, so and how they're the hierarchy. So if I go to, say, pose mode and select the main torso, if I now lift this up into space, we'll see that it detaches away from the body, and also we can actually see there's a few things going on there with the fingers as well we need to take care of. But I'll take care of this bit first. It's really easy to do. All we need to do is, if I just go back, I'm going to go back through to edit mode, and I'm going to select that bone, shift select that, then press Control and P and keep offset. And so now if we go back to pose mode, and if I click on that, the whole thing travels, you can see there, which is looking fine and dandy. That's great. All right, I'll just Control Z that back. So yeah, so the fingers, let's go and have a look at that. So we've got some weight painting issues going on there. Again, we can fix this, it's absolutely fine. So if I now go back through to here, somehow there's an issue going on with them being pulled away, being influenced by something or other. I'm not entirely sure which. So probably a good way to do this would be to select that, and then I'll just use that arrow and we'll bring that up. There we go. So this is going to highlight what's going on. I can also see there's a rogue bit of geometry there, so we'll have to kind of take care of that. That's fine. I think it's important to kind of leave these things. I could edit these out of the video, but these are the difficulties that you're going to come up against. And it's always good just to kind of see how they get solved, because it's not going to do any favors just to show you everything completely finished. So I'm going to have a look at, first of all, this. So I want to know why that is behaving the way that it's behaving. And from what I can ascertain, if I now go back to there, let's have a look and see if this does anything. Yeah, I think it's just like, it could be, it's literally something like maybe some vertexes or something or other that have gone rogue, and that's why it's stretching all the geometry out. I'll go back to this now. Okay, same thing with this. There we go. Oops, been a bit overzealous there. And then we'll go to this finger, do the same there. I think you have to go to the end of it. There we go. And then we'll go to this finger. And I think that's okay. There. Well, I'm not seeing any stretching going on. And as you can see, it's done it on the other side. So that's that. Can't see anything else rogue, apart from this bit of geometry. Now, obviously, I didn't make this model. It's a work in progress anyway from my student, but we seem to have this bit is kind of pelvis area. I'm assuming this is kind of like supposed to be some kind of sort of bar or something that the legs rotate on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that. Let's go and maybe have a look in the wireframe mode and have a deeper look. So I'm probably going to, right, I'll probably tie it to this part of the torso. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back into the edit mode, and we're going to do a bit of isolating. So I'm going to go L there and H. So I can see it, that's the one that got away. Okay, that's fine. So all we need to do there is, I don't need to isolate anything else. I'm going to go back through to the weight painting. And then from there, I'm going to go back to my brush. And all we need to do is I'm going to make this a part of this lower part of the body. So I'm just going to, I've got a bit of movement there because I think I wasn't in the exact place I should be position wise. I think hence why it's kind of, it's moving. But again, that shouldn't be an issue. Once I take it all back to its original pose, that should be fine, he says. Right, let's just go and increase that size of that. I might indeed just isolate this. I'm just going to go back because I've got a feeling I need to kind of get in a bit deeper. So I'm going to go L, L, and then H. And then go back to the weight painting. And let's just have a deeper look. There we go. I think it was just being obscured by the rest of the geometry. So trying to be careful not to catch any of the other bits of geometry, but that's looking all right. So that's all bound to that bone now. So if I now go back to the edit mode and press Alt and H, and then come out of that, go back into say object mode, click on the bone. Oh, we seem to have lost our textures. There we go. And then go into our pose mode. And now if we raise this up, hopefully we won't get any bits of rogue. Now this is good for walking. If you want to learn about creating controllers and things like that, I do have a video on my channel where you can see how to sort of turn a lot of these controllers into shapes, which makes things a lot easier. One of the things that you can also do is, well, it seems to be behaving itself fine. If the feet weren't kind of landing solidly on the floor, is you can actually have some other bones coming out from there and actually create kinematics, create inverse kinematics for the for the foot itself, so it stays put. But on this occasion, it seems to be behaving itself. There's a bit of movement I can see there. So I'll tell you what we'll do, just as a to close out on the video. I'll just take this back. I'm going to press A to select everything, then Alt G, Alt R. And we can do this at this stage. Is what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in edit mode, I'm going to create a couple of bones here. These are going to be controllers, and this will mean that the feet sort of stay firmly on the floor. So it's going to be E and Z, like so. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to need to obviously clear parent, so Alt and P, clear parent. And then what we're going to do is going to put kinematics on this part of the foot. So in order to do that, we're going to need to go through to pose mode. And you don't really need to name them as such. I mean, you can do if you want, but I'm going to go and select that bone, add inverse kinematics, and I'm going to go and select that, obviously armature, and then go and select this here. And then it should be probably about 1 chain length really. Do the same on the other side. Add inverse kinematics, click on the armature, and also, select that controller there, and then make the chain length 1 again. And what that means is, if we now go back to here, and then move this up and down, it keeps it placed on the floor. Can you see that? So instead of it kind of bouncing around, so it doesn't matter how much you kind of like dip it down, it's not going to push through the floor. It's a very common thing with when you're rigging in Blender, where if you don't create these controllers, the feet just continue to kind of push through the floor. But that's working very nicely. And that is effectively it, folks. If you managed to do this, well done, because you've effectively rigged the robot. We got it's one final thing, yeah. So this can happen as well. This isn't a big deal. So if you're moving the leg forward, you'll see this kind of like, if you're going to sort of do something like that, you'll see, ooh, I don't want that. That's looking a bit odd. Again, not a problem. All we need to do is we need to go back to edit, and it's really simple. All we do is we select the bone that we just created, shift and select the controller. So it's control to controller basically, and then press Control and P, keep offset. Do the same with the other one as well. Shift and select, Control P and offset. And now when you move it, if I were to go back into pose mode and shift this bone, go G and move it, you'll see now it actually moves beautifully. And, things like the control, like with the toes, this is where you need the controllers, but essentially, you'd have your toe if it lets me. So that's all working really nice. And of course you can, do all kinds of interesting things with it. And as I mentioned before, you can also manipulate these legs with the poles as well, like rotation and stuff like that. But anyway, I think that pretty much wraps it up. When you want to take it back to its original state, all you need to do is press A, Alt G, Alt R, and you are ready to rock and roll. So that's it, folks. So if you enjoyed this video and you found it useful, please do subscribe, do like, and of course comment. And until next time, folks, good luck with all your modeling and your rigging, and I shall see you in the next video. Okay, take care. Bye for now.